What's up, everybody? I'm Avi, and we're going to be learning Elixir today. This will be super fun. Let me just tell everyone on Twitter so that they can join also. But yeah, thanks for coming if you're here already. So yeah, we're going to play with Elixir and Phoenix today, and kind of have an interesting way, I think, of running this kind of learning session. And yeah, I don't know, we'll probably go till like 3:34. We'll see how exhausted I get. So let's just send. Oh man, my computer like always crawls when I'm streaming. Okay. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, I guess let's get started. Okay, so today what I want to work on is a web framework in Elixir called Phoenix, which is sort of like the Rails to Ruby. Phoenix is to Elixir. So I've read these docs in Phoenix a little bit, and we've played with Elixir for the last 2 weeks, so we have a good sense of kind of how the language works. In general, frameworks, like I remember when I was learning Rails, it was really hard for me to see kind of where Rails ended and Ruby began, like when I was using things that were part of the Ruby language versus when I was using things that were part of the framework. And I imagine that Phoenix is going to have a similar kind of feeling where we're not necessarily always going to understand why something or how something in Phoenix works from kind of like the language level from Elixir. So what I want to kind of try to do is, as we're kind of playing with Phoenix, really trying to like look things up and understand how they work, like on a language level, so that we don't kind of take the framework's magic for granted. So it'll probably be a little slow. And because frameworks are generally like really big, I thought it'd be fun to like follow some tutorials, kind of like code-alongs, and as we're doing that, kind of use the working examples to kind of ask questions and learn about Elixir. So that's kind of the plan, and I guess we could get started. So I have a whole bunch of projects and blog posts that we're gonna go through, and I thought we'd start with something kind of simple, like the simple blog application. And yeah, I don't know. Let's just go. Let's see what's happening. So we've installed Elixir. I believe we've installed Hex. This also looks like it's a pretty old. Yeah, I mean, if he's referencing Phoenix 0.16, I'm pretty sure we're on Phoenix 1.3 right now, I want to say. So this might be like a really old one, but let's see what's going on. Okay, so yeah, let's run this kind of generator. So we know that mix is kind of like that Elixir command line. And it seems as though like Phoenix.new, like I remember when we were building our like a command line thing last week, like our scraper. Let me just pull that up real quick. We were talking about like Elixir tasks, and what I wanted to do is open that. Okay, so we had these kind of tasks that we built, and we like, if I remember correctly, it's like if you do like mix, and then it would be like learn.magazine or something like that. So I think that's kind of what this generator is working on, is that basically there's a built-in task that kind of runs the generator, and that should generate our application, and we'll look over the code and see what is what. Cool. Mix, the task Phoenix new cannot be found. Well, the really good news about this is that we were totally right about Phoenix.new being a task. However, it says it cannot be found, which is interesting. So maybe we need to install Elixir, and I just didn't do that. It's definitely possible. I guess let's go to the Elixir guide and see what is up. Ooh, installation. Cool. Okay, fine, let's install Hex. Why not? Or upgrade it, whatever. Yes. Cool. We definitely have Erlang already. And then we know that we have Elixir 1.5. And yeah, I don't know, here's the command to install the Phoenix archive. Okay, let's do that. Are you sure you want to install? Yes. Okay, that did something. I have no idea what. Okay, we have Node. What version of Node am I running? Okay, we got a good version of Node. We have Postgres. We're not on Linux. Okay. Cool, so now let's just try to rerun that command and see what happens. Cool, yes. Okay, cool, so once you actually install Elixir, I guess you get access to that task. All right. Waiting for things to compile. Classic. Well, this is taking a good second. Okay, great. So we're installed, and okay, let's do this. Okay, so this would start our server, and this would run it in interactive mode. And it says configure our database in config dev exx and run mix ecto create. Okay, let's follow that step. So we've done that. We did that, and then we can start up the server. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, let's open up this app and see what is there. So it said in config dev exx. Okay, cool. So I see. So these are basically development environment, production, some secrets, and a test environment. And we're configuring, yeah. So that's the database, and that's actually what I want. I don't know, like with Rails, it will automatically create that database if it doesn't exist. I'm not sure if that's going to happen here, but that's a fine, Postgres setup. There's my Postgres server. It's running, pretty standard. So let's try mix ecto create and see what happens. Agreeing requires and please. Oh, come on. I mean, that's just hysterical. Stupid Apple. But it doesn't seem to have stopped anything. Okay, so we're gonna, yeah. So there's like a file watcher thing, which I think is going to be important for like a reloader. So we're going to do this and probably run mix ecto create again. Why do I do that from a new tab? Typing agree. Awesome. So hopefully Xcode won't complain anymore. This is taking a pretty penny, like a pretty second. Okay. So we have a database error, which is fine. We're going to fix that in a second. I just want to rerun that command, though, and let that whole process kick off again. Okay, cool. So I guess once you compile it, it goes pretty quick, which is nice. And it doesn't like this username and password. Where am I going to figure out? This is going to be fun because I don't remember my username and password for my Postgres. Like, I don't put anything there. What if I just take out the password? Oh, cool, that worked. So I guess my database password, my database username is just Avi, and with no password. Great. So it says the database for blog Phoenix Repo has been created, which is good news. And I guess now we can try to start up our server. And the command for that was like, what was the command for that? Mix Phoenix server, right? And then we could also do that in IEX mode, right? So that would be the main one, let's say. Cool, so it does Phoenix server instead. Okay, I don't know, let's see what's going on. Cool. So we have an app. There's our GET request. Exit and Gen Phoenix live reload. There's no process not alive. There's no process currently says give a name process because application isn't started. Yeah, I don't know what that error is, but the app is working, I think. So I guess let's move on. I'd want to start this in IEX mode, and I can't remember how to do that. It was like all the way on the top of here after we generated our app. It told us, cool. So like that is how we're going to do it. And it's going to complain about Phoenix. Okay, so it wants to use a shortcut like that. All right. No idea what Mac listener is. Let's just make sure that this works too. Cool. Okay, and again, I don't know why we're getting this like gen server call error. I don't know what that is yet. But let's actually start writing some code and get away from this like welcome page and stuff. Okay, so let's continue with this tutorial. So we're going to start writing our core functionality. We'd like to be able to have CRUD, create, read, update, delete actions for posts, and also the ability to add comments. That's good. Good, that's going to help us with associations. We're going to use supports 4 kinds of generators. So gen HTML, which creates model, view, controller, repository, templates, tests. Channel, which creates a channel and tests. JSON for API, which creates models, view, controller, repository, tests. Okay. Okay. So what I want to understand is what this is going to do. And I guess what I want to do is kind of go to the Phoenix documentation and look up the generators really quick before we kind of continue. Guides, up and running, learning, community, mixed tasks. I imagine that this is in a mixed tasks for Phoenix, right? Because that's really what they are. Phoenix specific mixed tasks. Right, okay. Awesome. Okay, so there it is, and it generates, yeah, so we know that. That's good news. I kind of just want to find out where they actually talk about this because it's a pretty long doc. Oops, let's go back up 1. Okay. So this looks like a resource generator, almost like a scaffold, but not probably with the scaffold in there. takes a number of arguments. The module name of the context, the module name of the schema, the resource name, a list of column name type attributes. Okay, yeah, so I guess we're just doing that. Okay, so we're going to run this command and see what happens. So it says, add the resource to your browser scope in Web Router EX. So we're going to start talking about routers in Elixir in a second. Okay, and what did it want me to do? To your browser scope, right. So it's probably in here. Okay, so this is pretty similar to like kind of the Rails router DSL. And I guess I also want to kind of keep a list of questions I have so that when I find Steven on Monday, I can have him explain how all this stuff works to me. One. It's got to be Elixir. Okay. Right, because it's inside of a module. Like that's not just a random DSL that isn't code or that's parsed differently. This is actually like, you know, going to compile. So like you can put like 1 + 1 in here or something. Okay. So resources is probably going to create me like 7 RESTful routes, and I guess I'm curious about, you know, so I've read a little bit about how kind of Elixir thinks about routing, and it has these ideas of like pipelines and then like plugs, which is kind of like, in my understanding, like kind of taking a lot of ideas of like rack and like middleware and putting it directly into its routing conception. And routing is what basically connects URLs or interfaces, whether it's a socket or a URL, HTTP, to different parts of your code. So basically what we're saying is like any request to this URL from should be piped through the browser, which takes HTML and a session and a flash message and CSFR protection, secure browser headers, and we can basically plug more things in here and kind of build up our middle layer, our middleware that way, is my understanding. So like if we pipe something through an API, we don't need we need like way less. We don't need to like have a session and things like that. Okay, so we're saying for, I don't know what a scope is though. So yeah, let's look up what a scope is in this router, because I think I get the rest of this. And like, you know, just to be kind of totally honest, like things like this still bother me. I'm not sure exactly what that's doing. And I know that's just Elixir. So I should have gone deeper into understanding the Elixir language, but I don't know, let's look up both those things. I think Elixir, I think use actually, I think it's kind of like mixin in Ruby. Right, it's like including a module almost. And then what is a scope in Phoenix routing? Okay. And let's see if there's anything else that confused me in here. Nope, that's it. Okay, let's go to what is a scope. So it's going to be in routing. Scoped routes. Let's start there. Yeah, so I see. So scope is basically just saying that, like, I mean, it's kind of like nested routes in Rails. it's not like super interesting, right? And it's just basically saying that the root scope is kind of like the main page, you know. Yeah, so that's it. It's not like it's nothing different. There's nothing special about it, which it works. Okay, cool. Um, okay, so now I should be able to go to /posts, right? Or well, we don't know that yet actually because I need to also. So I did that. Okay, cool. And this is kind of like the rake task for seeing our routes. So let's do that. That'll be kind of fun. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected, the 7 or 8 RESTful routes. It's really 7, but right, because we have the pages one. Okay. And then we also needed to migrate, but I wanted to look at the migrations. In fact, let's go back up for a second. I kind of want to read these files and just see what code it generated for me, and hopefully get some more questions. All right, let's start with this migration. I don't know what the private or privilege directory is. Okay, so repos are kind of like tables, I believe, in Elixir. Like that's the kind of like the idea. Okay, so here's what a migration looks like. Cool, so yeah, I remember how this works. Okay. All right, so we have this kind of migration module, and it looks very similar to Ruby in that like a Rails migration. So we define basically a change function, and then you have create, and like again, like this is where I hope I'm reading this right. I mean, no, because I'm like annoyed at myself for not knowing more about Elixir. This looks like I mean I don't remember doing this. Like when we were building tic-tac-toe and like the gem, this looks like it's this looks like we're basically passing a block to this function, but I don't remember playing with anything like that in Elixir. So like, is this the code and then this is the block, almost like an anonymous function? Right? I mean, it has to be, right? And like this is, we're passing 2 arguments to add. And I guess I want to run it like that and see if it errors out. And then we're calling timestamps. Yeah, I really love to understand how this works. But I mean, it was years before I really understood how all the Rails magic works. So, okay. What's next? Okay, so we open up the migration, get a sense of that. Title, it's basically the column name type, table name. Cool. I imagine we could do something like, you know, index title, right? And like, I'm just curious, like, I guess let's just look at the migration. So that would be part of Ecto, I believe. Maybe. Let's look at Phoenix migrations. Okay, migration cheat sheet. Okay, so that's the generator for migration over there. That's the command, creating models, okay, migration functions, creating tables, so types, things like that. Foreign keys, that's interesting. Ooh, even like JSON columns. Create if not exist, that's awesome too. Other operations, alter, add, summary, modify, title into text, I guess. That's dropping a column. Rename, drop table, indices, create index. Okay, so it would be create index like that. Interesting. Cool. Okay, so yeah, that was really useful. Like, I like that. Great. So I get what this is doing. I mean, I get what it's doing. I just don't necessarily understand, like, you know, from a language level, how the framework implemented that. But it's pretty cool. Okay, and then I'm done with the migration. Let's open up another file and see what that looks like. So we have tests. That'd actually be interesting to read. Let's open up both of these, the model and the test for the model. Yeah. So we have a post model, and okay, interesting. So first of all, I think this is the model stuff, like the persistence layer. I think that's supposed to be like ecto. And in Rails, your model and your model's like automatically connected to your database. So like you could say like, post, p equals post.new, p.save, right? And that's automatically going to your database. But here in Phoenix and Ecto, if I remember correctly, it's more like you have these models that are really just like structs, like data structures, and then you pass the data structure into like the Ecto repo to save it. So you're kind of like taking a data structure and putting it into the database, which is like way different. But that's what this file is. It's not, unlike in Rails, this object, this model, isn't directly connected to the database. It just models the database. And okay, and that's why we need to tell the model about its schema, because in Rails, Active Record can introspect on the table and infer the object's attributes. But here we need to explicitly tell it to do that. Okay. Cool. So I get what that's doing, which basically means if you add a column to a table, you probably also need to add that to the model's schema. And then I have no idea what a struct is. First of all, in Elixir, this is basically how I think you make a default argument. So you're saying that to either take params or just pass in an empty, oh man, I can't remember the word for that. It's not like a tuple. It's just like it's like an object, basically, kind of like a hash. So we take the struct, and what is this doing? Change set. Okay, I guess we have to look up what an ecto change set is, right? Like we just gotta do that. There's no other way to do that. So I guess actually let's read a little bit about ecto since we're in the models. Okay. All right. So that's the migration. That sounds better. Database, right? And then over here we have our change. Cool. Right, so we covered the migration. Awesome. And then the repo. Okay, our hello repo module is the foundation we need to work with the database in Phoenix. Phoenix generated in. Okay. So what it's basically telling me is that somewhere in my app, like in lib, blog Phoenix, okay. So this is actually my connection to the database, I believe, this like object over here. And 3 main tasks. To bring in all the common query functions from ecto repo to set the ODP name, equal to application name. Okay, cool, we did all that. And okay. Ecto schema is responsible for mapping Elixir values to external data sources, as well as mapping external data back into Elixir data structures. We can also define a relationship to other schemas. Okay. We have many posts, and each post would belong to a user. Ecto handles data validation, type, and casting with change sets, which we'll discuss in a moment. Here's the user schema in a Phoenix. Cool. Ecto schemas at their core are simply Elixir structs. Our schema block is what tells Ecto how to cast our user struct fields to and from the external users table. Often the ability to simply cast data to and from a database is enough, and extra data validation required. This is where Ecto change sets come in. Changes define a pipeline of transformations our data needs to undergo before it will be ready for application to use. These transformations include typecasting, user input validation, filtering on extra parameters, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It'd be great if this stuff linked, like the API documentation. Passing in our external parameters and marking which fields are required for validation. Okay, this is going to be fun. Let's try this. So basically, if we leave this alone for now, and we just take it for granted, so it's, I mean, what it's trying to say is that take the struct that was passed in, pass that to cast3, right? Because this gets passed as the first argument. So it's struct params title body. All right, let's just see what it does. So if I do IEX smix, I should end up in, I guess I'm in now like kind of an Elixir console. This is like my Rails console. And let's alias, and it's this whole giant thing. Okay, so now I should be able to say post, right? Okay, cool. So that's that. I just kind of aliased it so I don't have to say blog phoenix.post. I can say post. Okay, and now so what does this do? Change set equals post dot change set, and then we're creating like an empty post, and then I have no, okay. So, okay, first of all we're doing right now is calling this function. And we're passing in an empty post, and and then I guess no values, which is interesting. Right, and it's telling me that that doesn't work because that was filled in. So here I kind of want to guess, which is, my question is, if this creates a change set, which again, I'm not exactly sure what it is, like, it's funny because like I just want to say post.new, but that feels like so familiar, and this feels so like weird. Right, my question is it like, is that going to be how it is, right? Or is that going to be how it is? Or is, I'm just like trying to kind of guess the syntax here, right? Or is it something like this, right? And again, this is where like if I just had spent a little more time like digging into Elixir, I would have better intuition on which of these syntaxes are going to be right, which is what I'm trying to do is basically create something that I can pass to the database, I guess, something like that. Okay, so once we have a change set, we can check if it's valid. Okay, so let's think of a change set as like an instance of something, right, for now. So it is kind of like the equivalent of post.new, right, and there's our change set, and I can call methods on, or functions on this object, like, for instance, valid, right, and it's saying me false. What about changes? Right. Ooh. Is there a way to find out what it responds to? Like, I mean, oh, there we go. Okay, by the way, just hitting tab after that dot pulled in the autocomplete, and it showed me those are the only functions this responds to, but I was kind of going to look that up anyway. Okay, cool. So this will just be fun. Let's just do that. So if I say change set info, first of all, what does that do? All right, so it doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. What about that? Nope. Oh, that's a different one. There we got an argument error. So that's on a module. Right, so I can say like post dot this would work, I believe, because that's the module. But change set isn't a module; it's some sort of like thing in Elixir. Right, so that works because that is a post is a module, but change set is some other kind of thing. And again, this is where like one, this is a functional language, so I have to stop thinking in terms of objects. And then two, this is just where like not having a really strong foundation in Elixir makes it hard for me to understand. Like, you know, I mean, again, like it looks like looks like an object, but it's not. It's something. Oh, I see. Okay, I have one more try, because it's a module, right? Like that's a module name. And now, what if I do this? I'm hoping to get like a list of the functions that we saw on the. Oh, perfect. That worked. Awesome. And what my guess is that those functions are the same ones that we saw when we did this, right? And now I'm hitting tab. Yeah. So those are, I mean, there are more in here, but that's pretty cool, right? So like, for instance, get field, and that's going to take two of them. It's an arity of two. Okay, let's try get field. Yeah, I mean, I'm like purposely playing. Okay. Well, at this point, I'm done playing with this change set object. And now I guess I want to go back to trying to understand how to actually save one. And we said that these were our guesses for one of these syntaxes is going to be right. And I think it's super weird that there's two arguments there, but I guess we're going to find out in a moment exactly what the hell that is. Great. Since this one is not valid, we can ask it for errors. Cool. You know what? I should have probably just continued reading the docs before like I started playing with things I didn't understand. Title can't be blank. Okay, cool. So it's passing me a list with a tuple inside it or something. Okay, validation required. Cool. Okay, so they're changing the validation defined in the change set. So recompile is basically like reload. We don't need to do that yet though because I know we're still gonna, like we've already done that. And I don't care about removing the validation. This is what I want to understand. I mean, the interesting thing about this is that they don't actually show you a working change set before they start showing you all the ways in which you can have a broken change set. Right? Like with Insider. Okay, let's do this. So we're going to have params. I'm just going to copy this code and make it work for our use case, right? So params, we're going to have title. And we can get rid of all that. I'm going to have valid params. So there's my title and there's my body. So this is similar to, by the way, this part of my equation. So I guess that right, potentially. Right. Okay, cool. And then, cool. So there is my, it's like a hash or a tuple or a key map or a struct or something like that. Cool. And now let's use params to create another change set. Okay. So this is interesting. I don't get why we have to pass in user when we're kind of already using that, but whatever. So basically, it was this version would have been correct, right? So this is the data that we're passing in that we want our post to be. And then this is the struct that it should validate against. But again, I just don't get why you have to pass that in. Okay, cool. So there's my change set. And now if I ask it for valid, oops. Cool. And let's just see, does this work? Cool. That doesn't like that. I guess we'd have done that on the params thing before we made it. Okay. And then what else was on this thing that we could do? Let's just play with these types. Cool. What does repo return? Ooh, nothing. Cool. All right, let's see what else. All right, so there's different kind of validations, and they're using like the pipes to get there, which is kind of cool. And cool. Okay. All right. Cool. So that's kind of like what our model is right now. Cool. And then there's a bunch of different kind of validations. All right. Yeah, we're gonna take like a 5-minute break, and then we'll start doing data persistence and just continue looking at these kind of resources and like untangling some stuff in Phoenix. Cool. So it's 12:45. I'll be back in like 12:55. Awesome. right. Sorry about that. Cool. M&Ms. Okay. So we have this chain set object. And we're going to learn how to basically send this thing, which is valid, into the database using this repo kind of thing. Okay. All right, so ecto repos are the interface to the storage system. Oh, cool. Interesting. So, right, a repo can also be like an HTTP endpoint, which is pretty cool. We only care about fetching and persisting the data. The repo takes care of underlying database after communication, connection pooling, error, blah, blah, blah. Interesting. So this is aliasing. We aliased the post. And now what it wants us to do is basically also create an alias to this guy so that we can just say repo. Cool. So we say alias, and now I can just say repo. Cool. And now if I say repo insert, and then so this is interesting though, because that's not a change set, right? That's just like an actual user, right? Or, right. So if I say like repo dot, sorry, 1 second, guys. Okay, so if we say repo dot insert, interesting. I guess one of my questions is, if I say post and I say title, is how does it know what table to put it in? And it's got to be because it's of kind post, right? Which I guess is connected to the schema somehow, right? Interesting. Oh, okay, cool. Don't panic. I know why this happened. I forgot to run the migration, right? We actually have to say like mix. I guess we have to remember how to do that, but we never did it. So let's go all the way up here and mix ecto migrate. That's the task to actually create that stuff. So now it'll actually create the post table. Great. And now we shouldn't have to reload. I should be able to just run that again. Awesome. So so we got back a tuple with OK, and then there's kind of that post instance and things like that. What's interesting here is that we basically were able to kind of like skip validation in the sense that, like, you know, yeah, we kind of just like skipped validation, which is just interesting to me, right? Because in that change set object over here, we said that it was validate, it was required, right? So I guess what I'm trying to understand is, how does a change set relate to these kinds of things, right? And what can I just pass in a change set like that? Yep, we can. Interesting. So I mean, the way it's working, it's kind of interesting because, like, on one level here, you know, you just have the data, and that can be invalid. But if you want to validate it, you have to basically create it from, you have to create a change set that validates it, right? So these models are very different, which is interesting, I guess. And okay, cool. So that explains that. So we insert a bunch of them into there. Cool. And then we could say like repo.all, and then say we want all my posts. Cool. Okay. And then we have this querying library called ecto. And now, we could say like repo.all from p in post select p.title. That's not so interesting. The from ecto's query DSL, we built the query which selects all the email addresses in the user table. Let's try another example. Right, that's interesting. Let's try that one. From p in post, which is some sort of macro, which I don't understand, and then we can pass instead of select, like where. No idea what this I like thing is. That's super crazy. It doesn't seem to explain it. All right, where I like p dot title is going to be something like I don't know, and this just looks to be like kind of like SQL querying. So let's say it starts with an H or contains the letter H. Okay, let's end that. Oh, forgot to end that quote. Okay, right, that's the quote, and that's the double. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm breaking that and abort one more time. All right, so we want to alias what's it called? Blog Phoenix. And then there was that cool alias syntax that took two module names, right? That's what I want to do. So it's alias that dot dot dot, and then we want to say repo and post. Is that like that? Nice, cool. Okay. And what we were just doing was we want to kind of query this and see how that behaves. Cool. All right. Oh, because we forgot to import ecto. So it's ecto query, right, like that. And now, cool, perfect. Oh, okay. So this is actually just it seems to just really be like kind of a comparison operator. I like as opposed to like. Yeah, that works. Cool. So this word was just basically like a SQL statement kind of thing. Okay, that's querying. We can insert the change set. So it's kind of like if we want to validate data, we have to change set. Otherwise, we just can use the like struct kind of thing. Okay, so that's a little bit about ecto and persistence. And now we played with this model. It was a little fun. And let's get rid of all this garbage. Okay. And let's go to the next thing that we built was a controller. Right? So we've I want to look at the tests real quick too, because those are kind of awesome. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of like a constant almost, right? And it says test change set without attributes. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, all right, let's continue. So let's go to the next file, which I hope is a controller. That's the test. Okay, so here's our controller. Let's actually get this up to post controller. Cool. And then the controller is in web, I believe. Yep. Nope. There we go. Post. Okay, so this is a controller. So when we did that generator of the HTML generator, it is very much like a scaffold in Rails. It's worse than a resource because it actually filled in all this crap. So this is a controller, and the routing stuff that we looked at before, was it like mix Phoenix routes? Was that it? Cool. Right, so it's going to basically these functions within this module, right? Much like a Rails controller defines methods as actions. Okay, and they're taking index takes, right. So we're basically saying ignore params, right? And posts, right? And then we pass that variable to and the connection to the render function, tell it which template to render. And this is like casting, I think, like a local variable in the context of this template is basically kind of like that, which reminds me of like passing locals into partials in Rails. Okay, so that's going to be index. And let's just open it up in the browser and impress ourselves. So posts. Let's go look at our server. Cool. And we get no route found for get posts, which is interesting because that was not what I expected at all. First of all, this error page, okay, because I was going to say that error page was giant. Cool. Some pretty cool debugging though. Looks pretty nice. Headers. Cool. Okay. And it's saying we don't have that. My guess is that either I didn't save a file, or the live reload of the code is not working, which would be like, oh, not fun. Okay, I'm going to guess that maybe I didn't save the route file. I did save the route file. Okay, so, well, I'm going to abort this and see how I started it up. Right, I started up interactive Elixir, which should definitely work. Interesting. So I think this is what's going on here is that like these errors I think are actually like problematic because that's supposed to live reload my code as things change. And if I can't do that, that's not good. Okay. Okay. So I think it has to do with how we compiled when we said mix ecto create because we didn't have the license thing. So I guess let's just make sure that we have the license. Let's just try Clang. Okay, great. So Xcode shouldn't blow up anymore. Let's try mix ecto create again and see what happens. Excellent. It's ribbing. That's good news, I guess. What is Mac Listener? I don't know. Brew install Mac Listener? I mean, I don't believe this is actually going to do anything. If it does, I'm sorry, I don't believe this is actually going to do anything, but if it does, it's going to blow my mind. Basically, what happened, you know, whenever we ran mix ecto create up here, stupid Xcode kind of aborted our ability to compile something and could not compile the file system watcher for Mac. Try running Clang framework privilege Mac manually inside the dependency, right? So I assumed Mac Listener was some sort of thing that either wasn't compiled or I don't have on my system, right? And I saw that again when, like we said over here, like this gen server and couldn't find executable Mac Listener. So I imagined it was like some sort of package, right? And normally with OS X, the way you install a package is homebrew, so I was just like kind of guessed brew install Mac listener. I don't actually know if it's doing that right now. It looks like it is, but we'll find out in a few seconds or minutes. Nope, there's no formula called Mac listener. So I made that up. Okay, let's see what that does. I see. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I made all this up. Nope. Okay. I'm going to run mix. Okay. So we need to Google what the hell this error is and fix it. Well, actually, before we do that, let's make sure this bug of this whole not being able to live reload code is actually happening. Right. So first, if I hit refresh now, I should get this route. Perfect. Right. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool, Elixir. And then just for, I'm just going to try to do this really fast. I have never tried this before. Def hello con params. I'm really just going to, I want to basically build a new route really quick and see if like the live reloading actually works. We don't need any data, so I'm just going to render con and hello.html. I don't think I need to pass any kind of third arguments. I don't need data on that. And then I imagine now if I go to my views, okay, views are interesting in Elixir. We're going to talk about that in a second. It's probably templates, actually. Yep. And then in post, right, because I assume that, yeah, the render function seems to be kind of similar to Rails in that it knows how like that this hello should be nested within the post thingy. So let's make a new file called hello.html.eex, which I guess is the embedded Elixir, kind of like ERB. And this is going to be like hello world, right? And then if I go back to my router and let's do hello and then hello, so that should basically now, if I go to hello, this should render that. But if I get a 404, then we know that our live reload is broken, in which case we have to debug that thing. Interesting. So we got an undefined function, which means the route worked, which means that the live reloading seems to be working, which is good news. So I don't have to deal with a Mac listener error before. But I definitely was expecting this to work because, like, why wouldn't it? Damn. I mean, I'm getting something weird is happening. Right, so let's see. Get hello goes, oh, post controller. My bad. Well, I guess it will also test that, whether or not the live reloading is still working. Cool. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to assume that live reloading works and just move on from there. Let's drop that. And we just learned how to build our own action and like use a little, new stuff. Okay, cool. And then let's just drop this template too. Okay, so that's index. And the way the render works, let's read about it a little bit. So we want to understand its controllers. Top. I'm reading right now. So con, and I just want to try this. It was like use IEX, right? What I basically want to try to do is, I don't know, like play with this con object for a second. This con object reminds me of the request object in Rails, which should basically be like the HTTP request. And I just want to see if I can like pry into it and like, I don't know, see what happens, right? So let's go back to here, and let's go back to posts, and I should, okay. So it doesn't like use IEX like that. Function IEX use, okay, that's maybe not how to require it. IEX, oh, 1 second. I'm sure it's in some of my other code from last weekend. Okay, so we want to go up a directory, day 2. And let's look at, right, because like I played with this stuff before. Nope. I did not correctly open that thing at all. All right, let's just get a new term. Okay, and let's go up, and then let's just, cool. So in here, in one of these files, we're going to find like require IEX, not use. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. And now I want to see if the pry thing works. Cool. Yes. Cool. And now I can say con, right? Woo, yeah. Okay, so con is just a giant structure. And it's like, again, I think of these as instances, but I know they're not, right? And yeah, you got body params, cookies, method, IP, a lot of crap. Cool. And what can you do? Can you do like con dot request path? Oh, cool, awesome. So you can actually use this object, and then like, can I do con? So if I hit tab, so those are all basically like the functions I have on it, right? And none of these are behavior logic. These are really just data, I think. Cool. Status. All right. So that's the connection. And then, do I have params? Because I did say something like params, but yeah, so the underscore variable name says that the values should be ignored, right? So that's the idea, to ignore something, right? I kind of want to get rid of this. It's just, that log is annoying me. Let's just see if Google can help. Yeah, this is something, it's something related to that Mac live reload crap. So, because remember, like iNotify and stuff, so somewhere on my clipboard is that error I had, not the big one. That was the other one. Yeah, let's see what that is. And I just gotta debug this, because like, I mean, that's like, it's just really messy, like noisy log, and I can't deal with that. Okay, so there's some sort of GitHub package. About something or other. And that's the error I wanted. Um, what the hell is this? Hmm. Phoenix. Okay. I have no idea what I'm debugging right now. Just zero clue. I feel like this is all Xcode's fault about making me agree to their stupid license again. Um, ooh. Remove Phoenix Live Reload from application. Interesting. Man, I love programmers. Okay, so I don't want to remove that from my Mix EXX. Mostly because I do want it to live reload. I just want it to work. This is a dependency. Okay, so I get it. I know what we need to do. We need to reinstall this dependency because, yep. Okay, great. Okay, I got this, maybe. Let's get out of this. I am currently in, okay. Right, when you pry, I wonder how I don't abort the process, but just exit the pry session. We'll talk to Steven about that. Or I'll try to remember. Okay, I want to rebuild the dependencies. So first of all, how do I ask Mix for all of its tasks? I think it's help. Cool. And then there's going to be like a deps dot like thingy. Deps. I think we want to do this. Compile again. These are some interesting tasks. Cool. Lots of stuff. Okay. Awesome. This was the thing that blew up before because of stupid Xcode, I think. And because we're doing mixed steps to compile, the next time I start it up, I think it should work. Maybe. Cool. Well, while it's compiling, I can have more M&Ms. That was disappointing. I wanted to take longer because I wanted to eat more M&Ms. Okay. So now, whoops. We shouldn't have an issue with any live reload stuff. And gen server, whatever. Hey, look at that. That's awesome. Mission accomplished, right? No errors. We fixed something. It's like blog, Phoenix. I was always just curious also about this. Yeah, cool. So the rub server is running, but I also have an IEX session, which is kind of cool. All right. We fixed something. And now if I go that, it will, okay, sure, we'll pry into that. Why not? So now I'm in there, and the question is, how do I get out of the pry? Exit. Oh, cool. Okay, cool. There we go. So just type in exit to get out of the pry. That's nice. Guys, this is great. Beautiful. Okay, so I get the controller stuff. We can pry into it. Params is basically being ignored because the index doesn't take it, but I guess the router always sends 2 arguments, so we have to accept it. Render works. All right, let's jump to, this is the repo, which is our database. We're saying we want all posts. We're passing in this because alias blog Phoenix post. Okay, cool. And then, okay, so let's talk a little about templates here. From my understanding, in Rails, it's basically action to view. Here, it's different, right? These are templates. This is the HTML. But before this can get run, or as this is running, we have these views, which are kind of like, they're kind of like helpers in Rails, in that like they're places to put functionality you need. So post view, and there's nothing in there because, right? But if I like watch def, okay, so first of all, if I now say, oh, I gotta stop forgetting that. Cool. And there seems to be some sort of live reload happening with like JavaScript and stuff. No, it's not. Okay, cool. And then I'm in a session, right? Yeah, so, oh, I'm in a pry, that's weird. I say that, right, post view, and then if I say hello, I should get back. Okay, cool. What if I exit? Exit. Exit. Okay. All right, whatever. Refresh. And then, no. Cool. Okay, so I defined this function in my view, which is really just like a helper, I'm telling you. And then because of that, in here, if I wanted, I can now say, I'm going to guess just like hello. And this is calling this function from this view module. Let's find out. Nope. All right, we gotta get that pry out of there. Okay, so one, I don't see that information there. Let's make this hello world. Okay, we didn't get an error though, which is really good. Okay, and now we'll stop bothering us about pry. This is the return value of that function, and we go in index. Where did I put hello? Okay, so it might have even been there. It just wasn't like, you know, in a really valid part. So it shouldn't say the word hello. It should say hello world, which is the return value of that function, which is again like views seem to really be about. Yeah, see, there it is, right? They're just like helpers, right? Or they're the equivalent in my mind right now of Rails helpers, which is interesting. Okay, and then let's just kind of digest how this works. So this is a macro, and again, this is where I don't know where Phoenix ends and Elixir begins. Is Phoenix implement that macro, or do we? Or does Elixir? Like, is for part of Elixir? Because I don't remember learning about for loops. But that is pretty cool. So we're learning a lot here. When we pass data from the controller action into our view, it appears as almost like an instance variable in Ruby, but actually I think this is like a module variable, which is interesting. It's almost as though Elixir, or it's almost as though Phoenix, and maybe that's why we use views, because I bet you that this thing has at posts inside of it, and that we're basically creating one of these every time we render an action. That's what the render function is doing. Like, my guess is that this render function and this argument is basically, you know, creating a copy of this and creating a module constant or module variable named after that inside of that through some sort of meta programming voodoo. And because somehow with embedded Elixir, this file has clearly access to this view. We proved that by calling the function in there unscoped at post is reading out of that object. That is how I think this works from like a framework to language level. And I want to test it. I have one idea how, which is, nope, I don't have any. Oh, yes, I do. I do have one idea how. Let's put that pry thing back in there for a second. And we're going to end up in here. And yes, I want to allow. Okay, cool. And so right now, oh, no, I can't test it. All right, Okay, cool. So no testing it, forget it. But that's kind of like how I assume this is working. Okay, so we have that data in there. We have our view and then template. This starts up a loop, and we're basically saying like this kind of syntax is telling me that like this is an array or list. Give me all of them one at a time as post. Then you're just kind of, this looks pretty simple. Then we have these view helpers for generating HTML. That's crazy. Okay, let's read about this link thing. So it's taking one argument, 2 arguments, 3 arguments. Well, I guess it's actually probably 2. I don't know. We're gonna read about link. Let's go do that. Otherwise, this view is not super interesting, but I want to understand how these helpers are working. Yes, I do. Okay, back to the guides. So we have views, and just to, go through them, routing, right? Cool. Right, so these are path helpers. I think I just opened up the same link. Okay. I kind of want to continue reading this, but I want to jump to the view. Hold on one second. Okay. Views, render, right, define view module. Okay, that's kind of what we did, but they're doing it on like a template level, which is to say that like we have layouts, right? This is our layout. Cool, flash notices. Man, passing around this con thing, it's ugly. And then render, so render is taking in the context here, right? This is interesting, because this is kind of like the exact same thing we saw in the controller, right? That's the signs hash. This is basically yielding to the main view, passing a view module and a view template, but render in a controller, right? It's a con, then it, okay, cool. So they're probably different functions actually. But that's the main layout. And then, another thing it was saying about was it's using that, which is then calling the post view, which is saying use blog Phoenix web view. I don't know how to change the layout. Yes, that's the main one, but like, where are you actually? defining any of that stuff. All right, whatever. Let's continue reading. Okay, that's embedded Elixir. Okay, this is an important thing that we need to understand. Okay, so we did that. Know that we didn't need a fully qualified title with Hello Web Layout View, right? Because our layout view actually does the rendering. In fact, templates in Phoenix are really just function definitions on their view module. You can try this out by temporarily deleting your index, your template, and adding this function clause to your page view module. I get it. Somehow. I think what is going on is that, like, again, through some sort of like macro magic voodoo stuff, really there's basically, you know, like a bunch of these definitions, and it's using Elixir's pattern matching, right? So this is like the render for index, but then it basically defines these functions for each template you have automatically. Right. And one way I could figure that out is if I go in here and do, what was it, like info functions, and if we see a bunch of, okay, so we have render, we have 2 renders right now, but that's the one, that's right. Right. So still 2 renders. One takes one argument, right? Resource templates. Let's see. What does templates give me? Yeah, I mean, I just believe that it's got to be meta-programming that render function based on every template name for you. Okay, that's my guess. Yep, I was right. I mean, I could have just kept on reading. Man, why am I such an idiot? Phoenix precompiles all the HTML templates and turns them into render 2 functions. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. That's cute, stanza. I'd probably call it a block. I don't think it's the right word for this, but whatever. Okay, so this is the path helper. Cool. So page path is part of Phoenix View. Okay. Cool. Right, so this is kind of manually playing with a render function. Right, which is kind of what this is saying. Okay, whatevs. All right, so, okay, JSON, cool. Interesting, that's a good pattern. Okay, that's interesting. So I get how the view stuff works. I still don't understand how those path helpers work. So we definitely want to look at that. This is Phoenix View. Here are all the functions on it. All right, cool. We talked about that already. So I guess really with the routes, it's kind of being over here. No idea what an endpoint is. Okay. Okay, I get that. I get all that. Okay. So I guess what I want to understand is, where is this defined? Like link, right? Because I get what post path is, right? And this is using the current connection for some reason, but we also could say endpoint if we wanted. This is the actual we want, show, edit, delete. Yeah, it's kind of ugly. Okay, so it's one function for all your routes, right? Right, post path, right? And then you're passing in what action you want, like edit and stuff like that. So it's not as like friendly as Rails, where you get like, post path, edit post path, new post path. You're just using post path and then kind of throwing in an argument there. Okay, but now where is link defined? Like, where are these HTML helpers? They're probably gonna mean templates, right? Because it's the template. I mean, no, those functions are probably coming from Vue though, right? Because we said that render, that the template is really just being compiled into a function. This is, okay, here we go. It's Phoenix HTML. Cool. So where do I find Phoenix HTML? Come on. Cool, we did all that. This is kind of like partials. Right, so I see. So we're using render to then basically like, create another partial. And we're using, the second argument is going to be the sign, so we pass it in, it comes up instance variable. Cool. Right, this was the third one. So here's our shared view, and now he's going to explicitly say hello web.sharedView, would pass that to render. All right, cool. Sauce. Okay, I understand the rendering of the views and templates. That's pretty cool. Now I want to understand still what I was looking for before, which is that link function and where that's defined. Cool. Phoenix.html. Boop. Okay. Sweet. Let's link. Beautiful. Functions. Link generates a link to the given URL. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, good. I know this seems silly, but like, this is like, you know, I could do this in like 6 seconds in Rails. Like, I understand kind of the framework's construction and stuff like that. And what I guess I'm doing right now is really trying to make sure that I know where to look for things and stuff. And then I just also wanted to read some Elixir source code. Ooh, what is this? Whoa. That is kind of cool. Man, GitHub's all right. All right. So let's just, I mean, like, again, like, I just like, you know, we're trying to learn a language here. Like, I think perusing source code is kind of interesting, right? Okay, so pop required options, right? This is actually really similar to the Rails source code, right? We're basically casting this stuff into here. Keyword pop, we're taking out this becomes the method, this becomes the rest of the keys or the hashes. If method is get, blah, blah, blah. Then we make a content tag. So now, by the way, we learned about here. This is why reading source code is interesting, because we can. There's now an I know there's a phoenix.html.content tag function also. This is calling, right? And so I could say, like, for instance, just for funsies, let's make content tag section. No, h1. Right, and it takes in, I made this with code, and then we don't need a third, we don't need any more options. That should be enough for that. And now on our page we have right, and that's going to be in a section tag, in an h1 tag, right? So there's content tag, which, you know, is basically exactly like Rails, right? And I learned that by just looking at a little source code of the link thing. Cool. All right, so I understand link. That's great. Cool. All right, I think I understand everything about this page now. I hate that indentation. Okay, so that works. Yeah, I kind of want to just play with a partial. I'll do that later. Okay. What's next? So I guess that's the one. That's the index action. Let's pop over to the next action. Let's look at show. So it's going to be def show, and it's going to take in con and params do. Then it's going to say post equals all right, so what we want to know, what I'm trying to do basically is predict the show action. And it's going to be def show, we said con. Interesting. We need params here, and it's probably going to even be something like it's going to be like something like that, I want to say, because we just want to get the ID out. Right, and then it's going to be like post, and it's going to be like repo.find. I don't know. I mean, we need to look up like ecto finding a post by ID, right? I guess let's just start playing a little bit. Maybe I can guess it. So repo.find post. What does that do? Let's tell me if my arrow can drive me here. So repo find one is undefined. Oh, that would have been perfect. That I could have imagined worked, but it's not a thing. Okay, so I guess we're just going to pop into the controller and look, because I can't predict the actual how do you find a discrete post, nor am I sure about how I yank params ID out of the URL, right? But then it's going to say render, and it's, oh man, do we pass the connection again? All right, it's going to be something like that, okay? So this is kind of what I'm thinking that the post controller should be like, or the show controller. All right, so we were super close. Great. Okay, so show is working a lot like I thought it was gonna. What we're basically doing over here is saying that take the key out of take the ID key out of the params argument and put it into a variable called ID already, which is the beautiful like Elixir pattern matching stuff that I like also can't get, but I'm always really impressed with. I was so close. Like I was guessing that it would be repo dot find, right? And I knew you could pass in the post kind of model like that or struct, and then like that would make sense, right? Saying that, yeah, I mean that's literally what I wrote, and it was just get. The bang method is basically to say blow up if you can't find it, and I'm sure the get one is it's okay if you can't find it. Let's just test that out really quickly. So if I say repo.get post 1, awesome, there's post 1, get post 10, we get nil, but repo.get post get bang, you will blow up now. Beautiful. Cool. That was awesome. So I get that. That's casting it in, and then let's jump into show. And here it's just basically going to be a lot of like, embedded Elixir with like at post.title and stuff. Yep. Yeah, just kind of like the Rails. This is like what the Rails show view would be like. Awesome. Yeah, and post path when you yep. This is kind of, I mean, yeah, this is very similar to Rails at this point. I mean, obviously you're not passing around a connection in Rails the whole time, but edit that post. Awesome. Cool. 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 Great. Okay. Doing good. Let's take another break. This will be a way shorter one, so I don't have to go buy M&Ms. And yeah, it's 2 o'clock. I'll be back at like 2:05, and we will continue dissecting this. I don't know if we're going to get to the other tutorial I wanted to follow, because I'm really taking my time reading this stuff. But it's also making sense to me, which is important. Oh, I totally understand why it's doing that. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited to read more. This is great. We'll be back in like 5 minutes. right. We're going to continue. Right. Let's do the new action next. So, we were talking before when we were playing an IEX with like the repos, the chain sets, and the actual struct of why you would do this, right? Okay. You can insert a post directly into the repo, which is a database, or you can first create a change set instance, right? And this is, again, because it's a functional language, you don't have this idea of an object. So that when you want to validate a struct, you actually need to create a different kind of it. And that's what this is. That's what change set is allowing you to do. Cool. So it's kind of like the equivalent of like post.new in Rails, or an active record is really like post.changeSet. You're saying that I want to create a copy of this struct that can be validated. That's it. That's pretty cool. Okay, now I even get more about it. No, I don't. But this is good. I get it. Okay, I want to. This is why I don't understand yet. But I don't want to get there yet. I want to kind of go after new and this. Okay, so what we're basically doing is creating an empty change set. It's not valid, but we're going to pass it into the new view, and now we get render form. Okay, cool. So new is rendering a form. This is basically a partial. We talked about this when we were like kind of reading the view documentation, and we're passing the change set in. And we're passing this action from here. Why are we doing it from there and not just in form? Well, I guess we're going to have to see what form looks like, right? Okay. So let's go into the form partial. And, I like in Rails when they name partials like that. Like, that it's not kind of like a main view. In Phoenix, that doesn't really make sense to do. One, because of the convention of underscores being ignore this, it doesn't make sense. And then two, you wouldn't do that because it's not really like a view within a view within a view. You're really just defining a lot of functions during compilation. Anyway, we're not going to rename it, but it'd be nice if like there was some way to know that that wasn't meant to be rendered alone, right? So one of my questions was, I know why. One of my questions was going to be, but I figured it out already, was going to be why are we defining the action in the new page when we pass the render, and it's because we can't introspect on at post in order to know what action to send to. And because new is going to have like the create action, and edit's going to have the edit action or the update action, we have to do it kind of in the main template. That's why we're passing it into this form partial, because form 4 is not it's not smart enough, or either it's not smart enough or it can't figure out based on this change set thing what action to send to, right? In Rails, the action could be inferred from the state of the active record instance, but it seems like Elixir can't do that. Okay. So now what we want to understand is how form 4 works in Elixir. So this is going to be in Phoenix HTML form. That's going to probably be where the documentation is, right? So we had Phoenix HTML open, like here's these or something. Where was it? Maybe here? Nope. Oh, it was back here. Right. So yeah, HTML form. Okay. Yep. Right, I'm still not sure about this whole casting thing yet, but we'll figure that out. Cool. So it's taking this object and it's converting it to a form, which in Rails is kind of like your form builder object. That's what this f is, like f dot whatever, right? Okay, cool. I get how form works. I mean, it's really similar to Rails. I wish I could look up the documentation of like what these functions are supposed to do. Change that action. Like, what does that give us? I don't know. Okay. So that's for the error. Cool. So we're saying label, take in this thing, which would be like the post title. Cool. Text input, and then error tag, which this probably doesn't render anything if there is no error on title. And again, this f thing must know about this change set thing. So the questions I have are, what is change set action? What else does f know about? And what functions does it have on it? And then why isn't form 4 smart enough to introspect on a change set to infer the implied action? I was just texting Steven Nunez, who's helped us before with Elixir, and I'm going to ask him, why isn't form 4 in Elixir smart enough to introspect on the change set to infer the action, like in Rails? Couldn't Phoenix implement a form for a form for 2 arity? All right, we'll see if Steven responds. And then what I want to do is, I also was really curious about, can I do iex.pry in here? All right, we'll find out in 1 second when we load our thingy. All right, so I seem to be frozen. Okay, so I need to require IEX. I don't know where to do that. Requiring IEX and EX feels weird. Given that this template is being compiled into a render function in the post view module, that's where I'm going to try to put it. I'm so smart. And then this should now pop us into, woo, yeah. Cool. So now if I type in F, I should be able to see what this form object is. Cool. Fun. Okay. So yeah, it is really much like super similar to a form builder. And if I do, so like, one way that we can get the functions out of this that we support is through this nice little, dot info functions, please. What did I screw up there? I don't think I needed the percent. Let's exit. Okay. And now if I type in F, do I have anything? Cool, I still do. Huh, interesting. Okay, let's try that again. Just this one, though. Dot info functions. Cool. Okay, so those are all the HTML helpers we have on this form builder object. In addition to that, it has a data thing, which is basically the change set, right? Right, that is the change set. So if I say data.valid, it is not a change set. Stephen responded, but we're going to read it in a second. Stephen says about why Form 4 is not smart enough to implement, to infer the action. He says, hold on one second. All right, design choice. It's easier to maintain the framework code. They make decisions like that throughout the framework, like with generators asking you to provide the table name instead of inferring it. Cool. So yeah, that's interesting. I guess, yeah. So I guess, I've never contributed like heavily to Rails. I don't know what it's like maintaining a framework that has so much meta programming. I don't know if it's easier to do that kind of stuff in Ruby versus Elixir. But what I'm thinking, Jose Valim, who's the creator of Elixir and probably the creator of Phoenix too, and he was a Rails core contributor, and I wonder if he felt that some of the auto magic and meta programming that makes like Rails super fun made the framework cumbersome and hard to maintain, and then when he built Phoenix, didn't want to do it that way. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, the other thing too is I imagine that if you wanted to start implementing that kind of functionality, there are probably like dependencies you can add to Phoenix for like better ones. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of I don't know in the Phoenix doc if they like talk about their values. One thing I love about Rails, and this I think speaks to like DHH a lot. Rails is pretty thoughtful about like how they think they want the framework to work, right? They've got like really strict design principles and ideas about like the essence of the framework, right? And I wonder if Phoenix has that. I'm gonna ask Stephen also. Cool. Does Phoenix have okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to go to the homepage for Phoenix for a second and see if I can find like design patterns. Or like, Kenny, I'm trying to understand the essence of it, right? Speed and maintainability. Interesting. So they kind of mentioned that they really value the maintainability of the framework. Fascinating. Ah, God, so cool. Cool. Okay. So those are the docs that we're reading, and then there are guides. So the guides, what do they give you? Modules, exceptions, protocols, mixed tasks, up and running. Cool, blah, blah, blah. We've done all this. Yeah. It doesn't seem to, they haven't seemed to really written anything too much about this kind of stuff yet. API reference. I'm just opening up links at this point. Okay. So, okay, we read that. That's not interesting. Right. These are all the parts of it. Okay, cool. So I've done that. Okay. API reference. Okay, so this is actually useful because I was looking for this before, right? This is really defining all those modules. Like I had to Google like Phoenix HTML and stuff like that, but you know you can kind of see all of them over here now, and the generators and the tasks. Cool. All right, great. So let's go back to our form and talks about it. Okay. So we were in here playing with this f object, and we said that f.data. This isn't. That's like not the change set. That's the actual like structs, right? In here. It's source, right? Right. Okay. So what happens is, and yeah, okay. So right. I see. There it is. Okay. Okay. Inside the change set is all of the problems with the post and and the actual post, which is the data. So if you think about a change set, like if I had to like lay it out, it's like here's my post change set, right? Whatever. Okay, and inside it are let's say a tuple of errors and info about the status of the change set. And then there's also the actual data, the actual post, right? And you know, if you think about like what's going on here, when we pass in at change set, f gets these two things separately, right? So that its f dot source is going to be the change set that we passed it. And then f dot data is going to be the post, which was actually pulled out of the change set. Okay, cool. Stephen responded. Hold on. Yeah. This with myself on my live stream. Stephen says, reading Jose and Chris McCord talk on GitHub issues in Slack, join the Slack, is where I get that hunch. They're right. Take a look at the Form 4 code in Action View versus Phoenix HTML. Action View is pretty hard to follow. Maybe Action View is hard to follow for you, but I meta program wizard. Oh, he says he's watching. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, okay. So we get this F thing, and it's fun, and we know that it has all of the functions built into it for generating HTML. seems to know a lot about. Steven says, so code, very meta. Cool, okay, so I get that. And then, right, and the only thing we didn't understand was what this action thing on a change set is, right? Right. It seems to be like about, I don't know. And again, like I want to actually know where to look that up. I don't want to like hunt and peck. Like I want to have a process for like finding this stuff. My guess is if I look up the ecto change set module, that will give me a definition of what these functions are supposed to be. Yes, awesome. See, this is good because, like, again, like, you know, in Rails land with Ruby, like, I know I find API docs. Like, I don't have to hunt and peck or always play to discover. I can just get answers, which saves me more times. I'm out of M&Ms. I'm not happy about that. Okay, so I feel like I've read this before. Yeah, okay, cool. Oh, I see. Okay. Right. Maybe, I don't know if we read this before. So what we wanted to know here are basically the functions. Types, what is the difference between a type versus a function? That's just valid. Data. Okay, I get that. So types. Yeah, that's not really giving me anything useful. Like I want to know when would this action thing be populated, and like why would it have a Okay, what I want to play with, I guess now, because I'm not. I mean, somewhere in this page is my answer, but I'm not good enough at reading like Phoenix or Elixir documentation to really understand what we're talking about yet. Okay, so we said, so f.data is the change, no, that's the post. It's f.source is the change set. Okay, so let's get that, let's just break that out into its own variable. Okay, but I also probably had access to change set. No, I didn't. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, good. So here's my change set, right? Is that good? Yeah. Okay. I actually want to make a new one, and I don't remember this. It was like post is my structs, and the values I want to pass in are title. Oh, I'm gonna try inserting the record. Okay. Right. Nope. Okay. I forgot that syntax. Let's just go back. All right, in here, okay, it was that. That was my like structure. I just want a new one. I know where I'm going. I'm trying something. What? Come on. Okay. Maybe not going to try this. We haven't, okay, let's do this here. Whoops. Because that is the right syntax, right? Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to make sure about this. This is one thing I wanted to test, right? Which was that I am getting back, when you say change set, no matter whether it's a post model, you're getting back an ecto change set, okay? And on this thing is this thing called action, which is nil right now. And so if I say like repo.insert and I put in this change set, right? We know that change set is invalid, so we get an error, right? And what action is telling me that it tried inserting it. So what I get that, right? I get now what action is. It's basically it's because you're passing a change set into a repo. What this function is doing when you do that is it basically updates the change set to say, hey, they tried inserting me or they tried deleting me and I was invalid and whatever. What I don't understand is why is that the hook for the if statement, right? Like, why wouldn't you? The assumption that's going on here is that what Phoenix is basically saying is, if this form was re-rendered and action is populated, then I know that there was an error, right? Because action would only be populated if, for whatever reason, a change set was action only repopulated, and this form being rendered if something went wrong. But that just feels like a weird thing to be asking. Like, you're saying if change set action something went wrong, why is it not like if change set error? Like, it's not connotating the semantics of actually what this line of code is trying to do. I'm not so into that, but I'm sure that there's a reason for it. And I guess what we need to know now, because I think I'm done with my questions. I get the change set, I get the F object, the form builder, it's pretty awesome, I'm excited about all that. What I want to know now is basically the submission process. And the truth is that the thing I'm most interested in learning about is like how the rendering thingy happens. I wonder if I'm out of pry, because I'm in IEX right now. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to a new post. Cool. And and let's just hit submit. And now it's not valid, right? Can't be blank, can't be blank. Oops, something went wrong, check the errors again. Right, so I guess one thing we're thinking about is we could put IEX back in. Let's go to the controller, and let's talk about how the create action worked. Okay, so what create is doing is taking the post key out of params and casting it into past post params. It is then creating the change set, and it says case repo insert. If it's okay, and we get a post back, which is great. Interesting. So when we insert it, we don't get a change set back, but rather we get the post back. Otherwise, we get the change set back and an error tuple, and then we want to basically send it back to render con new, render the change set. Yeah, like I can't see a good reason for why looking at action would be the default way to say, yo, something went wrong. Because like if I go into pry over here, you know, with like a crappy right. So here's my, you know, it resubmitted the form, something went wrong, I'm back in F in the view, and you can see that I have, you know, this object, right? And I also have access to I don't have access to @change set in IEX.pry because the module's already been compiled, right? So that's not kosher, which is fine with me because I can get it out of this, right? So again, oops, it's f.data. No, f.source. So for all intents and purposes, just follow along, okay? If I say change set equals f.source, okay. So this thing is the same thing as what's being used on line 4, right? So you're telling me that the best way to know that something broke and that we need to render an error message is because that has an action? When you create a change set, is the errors thing automatically populated, even if you don't try to insert it? Right, so like, this isn't valid yet. Yeah, so it immediately knows that there's errors. So you can't rely on errors because even when you're rendering the new form without an error, the change set will have errors, but you didn't really actually try to insert it, right? Yeah, I mean, I get it, and it's because repo is modifying the action keyword, but repo could also be modifying like a Boolean called like errors question mark, and that would make this pattern so much nicer, right? Because asking change set, right, dot errors, but again, like that would be true right now, even though I haven't tried saving it. So yeah, maybe it's not like, because like again, like given how change sets work, right, this would be true in theory. Right? This is only true or anything, after repo acted on it, right? But again, like because repo's acting on that, at the same time, I just don't like the semantics of it, like. You kind of like, and this, I would never, I mean, this isn't better, but like, like, yeah, this is what I'd want. I mean, it should be that. Like, that's so much nicer than if action. That's such a weak semantic. It's not expressing what you actually want, what the question you're actually asking. Action failed would be. Yeah, action failed would be way nicer. But, maybe I'll raise a GitHub issue. All right, so we say change set action. And unfortunately, yeah. Okay, cool. All right, and then we put out the error. This error tag only happens if, if that's populated, right? And that's basically probably doing something like errors and then title. That gives me back can't be blank, right? And then 0, no, that's not it, right? Right, so it'd be like, it's a pattern match, right? It's, message, right, so that's how you do it. It's message info. Perfect, okay. So if I wanted to pull it out manually, right, just, and again, like, I'm just kind of like making sure that I understand how to like not, kind of drop down to the different levels of abstraction here. Because the error tag is introspecting on F and using that and stuff like that. But what if I wanted to make my own error tag and not even use error tag? What if I wanted to just be like, at change set? This is where you program this function in the view, though. And we're not in the view, we're in the template. Let me just do it here just because I'm lazy. So if I said message info equals at change set dot errors on the title, right? Then I could just say so now it should say post can't be blank. Let's get rid of that. right? The variable info is unused, cool. So that would be a way to get the errors kind of out. It's kind of through this cool casting thing, and I don't really care about that, so that will get me, now that error won't happen. I won't get that warning. Awesome. Okay, so that's how to kind of look at a change set and like pull some crap out, right? Which is useful. Okay, I get that flow. Fun. And we did look at the create action, but we were really looking at it for just the error path, and I want to kind of go back there, almost like study it, right? Okay. So this was what we had gotten okay with, somewhat okay with, in when we built tic-tac-toe, right? We're using the return value of repo insert, and if it returns these two pattern matches, so okay, so at this point in time, the change set has been persisted in the database, and then we get a local variable. We get a variable called post, and we pass. So we take the connection, we pass it into put flash as the first argument, and it puts it into the flash with an info, and then we take that. So in my mind, put flash must return the connection, because then we're taking the return value of put flash and we're calling it redirect. And like I mean, based on everything I know about Phoenix up until this point, I'm like 100% certain that the arity of redirect is 2, and that the first argument must be the connection. Yeah, I guess we can confirm that. How do I get that cool thing where, like, you know, it shows me where that's defined? All right, let's look at where redirect would be defined. And one of these modules is redirects. My guess is that this is going to be defined in controllers somewhere. I was right. Redirect arity is 2. Yep. Cool. Okay. So that's how redirecting works. So yeah, put flash. I just kind of want to make sure that I'm right about it returning the connection. And again, that's the other reason I'm looking it up is because I just want to get better at like understanding where to find function definitions in Phoenix. Okay, so these are all these functions you can call basically in the controller, which are interesting. There it is, returns the updated connection. You know, at first, actually, I thought it was weird that put flash returned the connection. Like, I thought that was forced. You know, yeah, I get it. Like, the conventions of Elixir and Phoenix and how they're coming together are starting to make more sense to me. It makes sense, like, man, in Ruby, for put flash to return a connection, that would make no sense. Like, the reason why this isn't forced, that put flash, right, just as in, I thought, like, you know, put flash could return nothing. What do I care? It's populating the flash, right? But that's not true, because what put flash actually did is modify the connection. Have to return, it can't modify the connection. It has to return a new connection that has flash information that's updated. Okay, cool. Yep, and that's why you can pass it to redirects. I get it. Cool, and otherwise we just render again. Cool. That's great. Okay. All right, we pass the post instance to change set. Interesting. Hold on. When we were creating change sets before, I still don't get, like, why can't I do this? Like, that feels, why am I like, because that's going to work. So what? What I'm wondering is, what value, if post change set has an arity of 1, what value do we get from, like, this syntax versus you know, this syntax, right? Like, why? Okay, so let's talk about this. So first, doing this, there's no sense over here of, like, any kind of strong params, right? In that, if this had another key in here, and I'm the programmer, so, like, that's got to be it. The reason why a change set has this arity is so that you can pass in the values independently of the instance, so to speak. But if you're just creating it, like, you just do this, right? Okay, I get it. And, like, it's in the model, right, that this method change set was defined, right? Right, so it doesn't care about the struct. It's going to start at, okay, I'm getting it a little more. Yeah, Steven sent me a text message about my discussion about, like, I know I'm modifying the rack. You know, I guess he also said feel free to ignore him, but I just can't. He says, in Ruby, you're adding stuff to the rack response in the background when you modify the session flash. I know that, Steven. And the thing is that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the key is that in Elixir, you're never really modifying data, right? So you have to return an entirely new copy of the connection, right? And that's what put flash is doing. There's probably a delay, so he'll probably respond in like 3 minutes because he's probably like 5 minutes behind me at this point. Anyway, so to understand what I'm trying to say here is that, like, yes, he says I'm right. Thank you, Stephen. Struct, and then you're passing in a cast params, which is basically this. The reason why this convention exists is to allow you to basically have strong parameter or parameter sanitation type functionality. That's it. If you don't need it, you can actually create change sets without having to do the struct and then the params that you want, right? Cool. Passing this into here, right? Okay, cool. I get it. That's awesome. Yeah, I have some more questions about like just why. Yeah, like on one level, you know, I can imagine this working, right? Because inside of this function, we know because like I'm in this module post, right? Like in the event that you only pass in a struct, basically like this, and you don't mention the post one, like this change set method can really give you your own one. What I'm saying is, and I think I could build this. Elixir is a pretty cool language because I can like implement a different arity of this, right? Which is to say that when it's just when the argument is just whatever, these are keys or maps or hashes, I don't know, right? I just basically can say then post, because that's basically what I'm trying to avoid, right? Is just a better, right? And then and this is the pattern, right? It's params equals that, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that arity works in the sense that that basically allows me to write this line of code, but still get all of the functionality of that method signature. I think. We will find out in a second. There was like a reload something. Oh no, I forgot it. Reload. Reread, receive, respawn. Respawn. Okay. Respawn. I hope it'll read my code. Hey, what's up, Emily? How's it going? Good. What are you doing here? Yeah. Hello.
This is my friend Cameo. This is
Hi.
Ollie.
How's it going?
Having fun?
Yeah, having a lot of fun. This is great.
Elixir?
I'm learning Elixir.
Do you want some water or anything?
I have water, thank you, and Red Bulls. I'm good. You just visiting campus?
Yeah.
Cool.
She's visiting from London.
Awesome. Welcome.
We're running the Bronx Town weather tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just visiting.
Cool.
We'll have fun with the live stream.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Our module. Stephen, you're gonna have to send more context than that. All right, I respawned. I don't know if that made it what I wanted, but let's just say alias blog Phoenix blah 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 post. Okay, cool. And now if I say post.changeset and I just pass in title. Okay. He says, okay, are my module I want to recompile. Okay. I am not sure what just happened. I guess my first question is, did I actually get into this function? And then Steven says, if I want to, well, we don't actually know if I even recompiled that, right? So if I do r blog Phoenix, as in what I'm trying to say is that I might, because I just typed in respawn and just assumed that like it read my code, and I have no idea if that's true, right? Cool. Warning, redefined. It redefined it. Post struct is redefined line 22. Cannot expand struct post. Okay, so it is not like this. Also, did it put some? Okay. Let's get rid of that for a second, and let's just try that again. Okay, so it's not recompiling. It's not compiling this. And it's because of this thing. Post struct is cannot expand struct post. Okay, I'm just going to try something else. And I don't know why this wouldn't work, but just let's just see if I just do that. Now what happens? So it's complaining something about line 20 to 22 in this post model. On one level, is this the right way to actually define that params must have this kind of like structure? Alias blog Phoenix post up top. Oh, because, oh, that sucks. Oh, that's so annoying. Steven helped. Basically, yeah, even inside the module, you don't get to refer to itself in its kind of shorthand syntax. So, like, you just basically, and I imagine, like, you know, all this was generated by, like, the generator, but I imagine that you just always do that, right? I mean, if you want to refer to the module you're in as sort of like a model in this kind of situation, you'd always want to, okay, cool. And then the other, okay. This should work now. So let's try it. Recompile. Oh, come on. Okay, cool. No problem. A new error. New errors are good. It's saying 21 conflicts with the defaults from def change set 2. Right. Because, all right, we're going to have to be smarter than this. Right. Right. In fact, we don't want it to have a default. Right. Awesome. So now, yeah, in my mind, this is a nicer implementation. They're the same function. They do the exact same thing. Just one of them requires you to pass in %post, and one of them doesn't. And I just don't get why the default in the generator would be line 15 as opposed to line 21. Right? Like, interesting. Yeah, like, so now I have post.changeSet, and I can pass in, like, parameters that will be sanitized via the cast function, right? And I end up getting the struct, and this is nicer. Yeah, like, look, it's there. Yeah, I mean, I just builds this change set based on struct and params. So does this, and I guess conventionally, when would you ever be passing in a when would you ever not want your struct to be a post in the post model? Because this allows you the flexibility of potentially passing in some other kind of structure. It doesn't necessarily need to be a post. I just don't get when you ever want that. All right, no big deal. I'm going to comment this out. And, like, yeah, I mean, I'm just experimenting, just kind of having fun here. Like, this isn't, I'm, like, refactoring for no reason. But it's a nice way to kind of make sure, right? And now, look, all of this code becomes, and the idea here is that I think I've lost no functionality, right? Yeah, like, I've lost no functionality right now. Except for that doesn't work. But that's fine, though, because the truth is, yeah, you'd want, yeah, I mean, and again, like, I'm really questioning, like, I'm trying to understand, like, by questioning these things, I'm really trying to understand what are the patterns Elixir wants, right? Like, for instance, like, that's where it breaks down. No. Well, I guess, okay, I see where it's going to break down now. Yep, okay. It just totally breaks down. Oh, man. I mean, no, like, it doesn't, it does break down. Because basically, that one function with that method arity was working for all these use cases. And in my, in where I was going with this, I had basically been needing to define arities of change set for every single one of these use cases. Editing a post, updating a post, instantiating a new instance of one, and all those kinds of ideas. And that would suck, I think. And again, I mean, because, like, you know, I'm sure you're encouraged, and I mean, I want to look at some other Elixir source code, sorry, other Phoenix apps. My guess is that you're supposed to build stuff into these modules. I was not sure what kind of stuff, but implementing like 4 different arities of change set just to avoid having to send an extra argument, that doesn't feel right to me. And I'm pretty sure that's what I'd have to do. Because I had to implement one in order to get a new instance of one and shit like that. So, all right. But that was a little fun, a little detour. Okay, so it is 3. Yeah, I mean, again, like I was just thinking about it again. Like I'm interested to see in a non like scaffolded auto generated app from Phoenix what a model looks like and if developers define their own change sets. I want to take a break, but I need to answer that question now. So we're going to skip to something I wanted to do anyway. Which we're not going to get to today because, like, you know, I don't know why. This took a little longer, but I'm feeling very comfortable with this stuff. But I want to do this was a post series that I wanted to follow along with, and I will maybe eventually, which is building a Slack clone with Elixir, Phoenix, and React, which sounds really fun. I love that developers say things like, I am quickly falling in love with Elixir and Phoenix. Like, I mean, I don't know if developers say that. Rubyists say that. I mean, once you become a Rubyist, like, you understand what loving code is. And then you start saying things like, I love a programming language. I'm falling in love with it. It is. It's like a courtship. Anyway, what I want to find is basically the end result of here. There we go. Which is his repo, and I want to go into his models, and I want to see if there are any cool change sets in there defined, or like what kind of code you put in there in general. Yeah, I was also wondering, like, no. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so that is the vanilla change set, and there's nothing else in this. I was really hoping this app was going to be complicated enough to like necessitate, building stuff, but apparently it doesn't. Schema messages with a string. Okay, cool. Okay, these are those associations and stuff. Message, room, also the vanilla one. Just changing the change set. Oh, that's not okay. That is another reason why creating multiple areas of change set would be a bad idea. It's because change is also supposed to define the validation and the constraints and things like that, and you have to implement all that logic in all of them, and that would suck. Oh, there we go. Okay, see? Yeah, right, that makes sense. This is also interesting, too, because I was like, yeah, I like this a lot. This is pretty cool. Put password hash. What does that mean, put password hash? I get it. I get it. Oh, okay. I think I get what it's trying to say. It's trying to say, like, put the password hash into this and then give me a new copy of it back with the password hash inside of it, right? That's why it's like put flash, right? Interesting. So you're taking the change set from validate length, you're putting it into here. If the change set matches a valid, if it matches a valid one, where the password was updated, then put change. Cool. So it's basically, I see. It is putting a change in the change set, giving me a new copy of the change set, and it's encrypting a password hash, and then returning it. Otherwise, it's just giving me the change set. Cool. Which is basically saying if you haven't updated your password, don't re-encrypt it. Sweet. Okay, cool. I thought this app was going to be more complicated and we'd see more code, but I'm getting a sense of what kind of stuff what models deal with. All right, with that, I'm going to take a little break. It's 3:12. I'll be back in like, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. All right. Cool. We're back. And yeah, let's talk about. Well, I don't know. I think we just covered most of the framework. Right. So we got the controller. I mean, I guess we should go through. Yeah, delete, repo get, repo delete. Yep. Yep. Cool. Cool. That's the controller. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the flow, right? There's not much else to it. We're not using a socket. Some static stuff. We covered views and templates and layouts. Yeah, I mean, okay. I guess the other thing we haven't done is like associations and things like that, but it's going to be a lot of more of the same. So I'm not sure where to go from here. Yeah, like we reviewed all of that. Let's save that. Okay. Sure. Cover these helpers like link. I'm not sure what the next. Made a new migration. So what should we do now? Right, let's see. Okay, so by the way, this is how far we made it in this tutorial. Because again, like I really wanted to play with this stuff and like, spend time looking things up and not just to actually understand them, but also the thing I was really trying to learn, one of the things I was really trying to learn today was how to look things up when I don't know them. And that meant like basically going super slow and like asking myself a lot of questions, trying to pull up different kinds of documentation, like, the differentiation between like these guides versus this kind of actual API documentation was really great. We understand a lot of the conventions about like when we're returning a modified copy of an object and why that like verb usage and like method function naming like apply, action, and like put, flash makes sense. I still don't understand what these types are versus functions though, which is a little upsetting. Yeah, where do I want to go from here? Yeah. Cool. So edit. Right. It's upsetting that databases are so slow, right? That's like 80% of the 6 millisecond response time. Because like someone asked me like why I'm learning Elixir, and I guess like one of the things I was really excited about with Elixir is that a 325 microsecond response. That's so crazy fast. So if you could like avoid talking in the database, you could get like, man, just such crazy response times. I mean, 6 milliseconds is pretty good, but be nicer if it was like 300 microseconds. But the database, that's so slow. And then also like I wanted to learn like a different way of thinking about code. Like, every time you learn a new language, you can kind of express yourself or think differently. All right. I bet you this app's going to have a lot of cool channel stuff, which maybe we could look at for just a second, because we're not, I'm not going to get into like JavaScript and consuming WebSockets and things like that, but, I'm pretty sure that's what you're going to see, some like routes in here that just expose sockets, which is real cool. Again, this is that Slack clone. No, router does not mention sockets. 1 second. Room channel. Where does that come into play here? Nowhere here. Join. This is really useful. Like, just again, like, I love reading code. You just learn so much about like patterns and things like that. That is also some pretty code. I wonder what render one and render many are coming from. Are they part of this? Well, they have to be part of Phoenix View because they're not. I thought maybe they were part of a view that they created and then defined those functions. But we should talk about that. Oh man, there's so much to learn. Okay, I'm not going to get into channels right now. But yeah, this would probably be a super awesome like tutorial to follow if you wanted to learn a lot about React and like Elixir as it should be used, which is for like very heavy real-time event-driven stuff. Guardian seems to be a cool Elixir package for stuff, authentication. So our index. Wait. Cool, so that's a virtual attribute. I'm really just reading and kind of just trying to look for like things that aren't familiar. This all looked pretty familiar so far. Right, we saw a similar kind of thing in our it was in that Slackin or whatever that React Elixir Phoenix Slack clone. We saw a similar kind of thing, but he called it put password hash or something like that. He's saying hash password, which is again like I'm still trying to understand the idioms or colloquialisms that Phoenix or Elixir would want us to use. Not to say there's a right or wrong one, but oh yeah, this is pretty cool too. Yeah, I mean this is a good tutorial. I'm gonna bookmark that for things I want to learn later. And then this one I already have bookmarked for like months because I've always wanted to do that. All right, and then I guess the other thing, so I'm not going to finish this tutorial. I'm pretty beat, and so I think we're going to be wrapping up. But I do want to point out this awesome series of by Brian Emery, who actually, I was really excited because I really wanted to get through his tutorial, but I went so slow kind of understanding a scaffold in Phoenix and playing with it. But Brian was actually a student of mine, and I taught him Ruby. And I was really excited for him to teach me Elixir and Phoenix through his awesome blog series. But we didn't get it, so I will save that also for later. Yeah, so that's about it. I think this was our last Back to Code learning session. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me learn Elixir and Phoenix. Mostly just, I don't know, struggle. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do another one next weekend. I'll see what my schedule is like. Probably Friday, 4 to 8 again. Because I do kind of want to go through this tutorial and learn about testings. And Brian is an awesome developer and an awesome guy. And it'd be nice to, kind of have that manatee becomes a memento or senpai, kenpai thing where I taught him and then he gets to teach me. Cool. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Have a happy Saturday. I hope you guys continue learning how to code. And I don't know. That's it. Have a great one, everyone.